புதிய தலைமுறை தமிழக ஊடக தடத்தில் புதிய வீச்சு. அச்சில் தொடங்கிய அரும்பு புதிய தலைமுறை இதழ். முன்னணி எழுத்தாளர்கள், சமூகத்தை எழுப்பும் எழுத்துகள். கல்விக்களம் முதல் பணிக்களம் வரை மாணவர்களுக்கான வழிகாட்டு ஏடு புதிய தலைமுறை கல்வி. மங்கா உலகு படைக்க மங்கையரின் மாதவம் பெண் மாத இதழ். நேரலை எமது பண்பாடு, அறம் என்பதே நிலைப்பாடு, உண்மை என்பதில் உடன்பாடு.
வணக்கம். புதிய தலைமுறையின் செய்திகளை பார்ப்பதற்கு
முன்னதாக இந்த நிமிடம் வரையிலான முக்கிய செய்திகளை முதலில் பார்க்கலாம்.
மோதலில் பிறக்கும் உண்மைகள், வாதங்கள் மூலம் தெளிவுகள்.
வணக்கம் நண்பர்களே, நேர்பட பேசு நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு வரவேற்கிறோம்.
செய்திகளை ஊடாடும் நிகழ்ச்சிகள்.
ஆனால் ஒன்றை மட்டும் கூறிக்கொள்ள ஆசைப்படுகிறேன்.
டிக்டாக் அப்ளிகேஷனில் அடுத்த சர்ச்சை.
ஒரு கருத்தும் சொல்லல, என்ன சிக்கல்?
செய்திகளை தாண்டிய சேவைகள், சாதனை படைத்தோருக்கு தமிழன் விருதுகள், பெண்ணியம் போற்ற சக்தி விருதுகள், கற்பித்தோருக்கு ஆசிரியர் விருதுகள், மாணவ விஞ்ஞானிகளை தேடல், உழவுக்கு உயிரூட்டும் நாற்றங்கால், சாமானியர்களின் வியர்வை அலசல், நீர்நிலை காக்கும் நம்மால் முடியும். இயக்கமாய் ஒரு தமிழ் ஊடகம்.
உண்மை உடனுக்குடன்.
Good afternoon, one and all. Thank you very much for being a part of this season 2, chapter 2 of Unlocking Media in Tamil Nadu. We received an overwhelming response for our chapter 1, so this is going to be much bigger than what we did last time. Thank you once again. And then my name is Shankar. I represent a company called Dimeansion Media Solutions as CEO. We represent Tamil Nadu news channel Pudiya Thalaimurai, V6 News, and then a couple of other things. Okay, now I have with me here
14 hours
of media industry. Let me welcome Sharat Mohan. Thank you so much for coming. Balaji from Repose Mattress, Archana Agarwal from Airtel, Muralidhar from Mindshare, Danisa from Elite Foods, Narayanan from Alliance, and our moderator Jaikishan Chapru, fondly called as Jayesh. So it won't take much time, and over to you all. Thank you once again for having made it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shankar, and a warm welcome to my panelists and all of you who are listening out here. As we know, we are basically amidst troubled times right now, and there are a lot of new learnings that we have all had so far in the past few months. Some of the normals that we had to shed and get adapted to new normals. And in this light, when we talk about TN as a market, and we look at talking about unlocking the media in TN, with my enriched set of panelists, Archana, Danisa, Mr. Balaji, Sharat, Murli, and Naru. So, without wasting much of time, let me just kind of kickstart this session. And my first question I would basically be putting to Danisa. Danisa, could you please help us understand how has life changed for Elite Foods right from March till now?
Well, I think life has been constantly changing for us because every day seems to be a new obstacle or a new challenge in front of us. So, being in the food industry, I could not give the privilege to all my employees to work from home because more than 60% of them actually work in the front line, going from store to store. So those challenges have always been there, and we've seen ups and rises in demand for different various types of products because if you notice, more and more people are making food at home rather than going out to eat or buying packaged food. Um, so I guess we see an increase in our raw materials such as like maida, nata, and so on, rather than our cake sales and so on. So there have been a lot of ups and downs, and I feel like it's not the end yet. Till now we were in a much safer place because most of our units are in Kerala, and Kerala was doing much better than usual, much better than the rest of the states. But now the cases there are also in like a huge peak with over 2,000, 3,000 cases on a day-to-day basis. But it's been an incredible learning curve. I don't know if this is going to be how long this is going to continue on for. But I think with the support of a great team and everyone wanting to work together, I think we've been sailing through so far.
Okay. From a food industry, let's kind of look at an industrial setup. Sharath, how has COVID impacted your business, and what do you think is the outlook for the rest of the financial year for you?
In respect to construction or building material industry, apart from, I mean, it's a hit for all, and we were also badly hit in the month of April. Then we were the first to fall, and we will be the first to rise. So, being the infrastructure movers, okay, and a lot of government projects and commercial projects and all were put on hold. But now the market has slightly moved up in a positive trend. So I think for next 6 months, maybe after November or so, maybe after Diwali or before Diwali, Diwali, I think we will be bouncing back. So at this juncture, it is around 25% of the entire industry has a setback. So all the projects have moved back. On the schedule, they are behind 6 to 8 months now. So to bridge this gap, it will take another quarter for us to bounce back, and I hope we will be the first to move on because we are a developing country where the infrastructure plays a very vital role for the growth of the nation. So
I think that's a good silver lining that that you kind of just projected for at least the infrastructure business. So you're saying something?
No, I just want to conclude in such a way that a lot of changes have been. We being a regional player, now the time for us to revisit the entire systems, rather depending more on labor and workmanship. Now we are planning to move to the automation part. So we would like to make the entire manufacturing process into automation. Not only us as a secondary steel player, a lot of companies are initiating those processes. So even in future, if anything comes like this, we'll be well prepared.
That's nice. So, Balaji, next one I would basically ask you is bed has technically become the next workstation or a classroom bench in most households, given the size of Indian households. With this current partial unlocking that has happened in most of the cities, are you seeing a spike in purchases of mattresses? How different is the situation in your business versus the same period last year?
First of all, good afternoon to all of you. Actually, people in our communication, we always used to say that people spend 1/3 of their lives on a mattress. But now it's come to a situation where people are spending almost half their time on a mattress in a day. So from that point of view, yes, people are spending a lot of time on the mattress. We are seeing a lot of spike in the sales also. In the sense, I would like to explain a little bit over here. before the lockdown was lifted, we were all very anxious and we thought it will be somewhere close to zero in terms of sales once the lockdown is lifted. But to our pleasant surprise, actually, mattress sales have started doing well, and it's been pretty happy journey for us so far. Almost like 70% of what we've done last year. So that has been the situation so far, and we are also now doing a lot of innovation in the context of people spending a lot of time at home. So we are thinking of a lot of new ideas as to how to bring in some more accessories that would help them when they're working from home. I think we can discuss more as we go along. But yes, it's been a good beginning ever since we came back.
Sure. Let's kind of now take up a look at the perspective from an agency side. So, Narayan and Murli, I would put this question to you. What have been your observations within your set of clients or their competitions on how this recent pandemic has impacted the businesses overall, and at what levels are you guys currently operating at?
Okay.
Narayan, you can go first.
Needless to say, I think the client's business has been definitely impacted, and there's been a profound impact mainly from the retail dependent sectors like fashion or skincare or even footwear, stationery, construction. So a lot of these have been very severely affected, and of course, no clients have spent during that period. That's very true. But however, at the same time, there has been an emergence of sectors like health and hygiene and FMCG who have shown a quick recovery. I think these sectors we see as very resilient. And of course, education, e-com, agriculture. Now, these are sectors which have been very optimistic so far. I mean, even during the COVID period. So we didn't see a spend coming down. In fact, we saw spends going up for most of the brands. So also specific to TN, since the discussion is all about TN, I just looked at some data here. So what has actually seen from this data or BARC data when I compared Jan, July 2020 versus Jan, July 2019, I think retail has been very severely affected. Retail jewelry or retail clothing has been, because ad volume spends have really come down. In fact, it's come to the range of almost more than 50%. And the jewelry, as all of us are aware, I think Lalita Jewelry and all the other jewelry brands, especially and the ad ranking or ad volume ranking has actually come down from number 3 last year to number 10. So I think, yes, retail driven has been completely affected. But however, we are seeing it as a kind of optimistic, and we see a very sharp recovery in the next few months, which is good.
How about you, Murli?
The way it was happening, so if I started from April is where the lockdown actually started in a bit of a right. April was a complete washout, if you ask me. I think it's also mainly because people are waiting and watching to understand the situation. There is also a story where initially people felt it's a 1 month lockdown and things will become better. Then after that over a period, everyone realized that there is an issue. So April was quite tough. If you ask me, the market started pulling back much better in May and June, where we were almost operating at around 40 to 45% over the pre-COVID times. Right? In this, the interesting thing is actually, if you ask me again, split it between a media mix of TV and digital. Interestingly, the fall is not so bad on digital, but TV had a huge fall. Apart from the other media, which we don't have any taken like print, cinema, where the impact is mainly because of the situation, right? So overall, there was an impact of around 40-45% was the going ratio in May June. After that, it has really picked up a little. Today, we are almost, I think, if you ask me, is around 70-75% in terms of overall. That's what the way it is.
Interesting. Archana, I would basically want to check with you. Work from home means everybody needs to be connected to voice and data. Have you seen a huge spike in the number of calls or daily data consumptions? And part 2 to this question is, was Airtel technologically geared for this incremental data and voice bandwidth? And how did you kind of function during this period till now?
Yeah, so I think obviously we were all caught unawares with the lockdown and the way it kept getting extended. But I think what Airtel did very quickly was able to pivot a lot of things. So, for example, I'll come to each of the points. Most important was we needed to have people to be able to recharge, right? Because a lot of people, consumers actually are on prepaid packs and they don't recharge online. But we did see a huge increase in online recharging, which used to not happen earlier because there were no recharge shops open. So we had to first very quickly pivot on getting people accustomed to digitally recharging and also giving them opportunities for people who don't want to or don't know how to recharge online. How do you go and do it? How do you give them opportunities to go on ground and open to recharge? So, for example, we opened up chemist shops from a recharge standpoint, where people could go because chemist was an essential service. So those were open and those were closed. We I, uh, we identified ATMs because people would need cash and they would go. So ATMs was another source of where people could recharge. Then we quickly launched a creative which talked about how to recharge online. So it was a simple step-by-step creative as to explain to consumers how to, and we went ahead and advertised that. Okay. Because that was the biggest thing coming to using of data and all. Once your data pack expires or when your pack expires, what do you do? So getting that piece in place was very important. So we did see a huge increase in terms of people going to our Thanks app, or not only Thanks app but also using other modes of payment modes to recharge online. But they also looked at shops and things like that to recharge. We also launched this program called the Superhero Program, which allowed a lot of people who were daily wage earners, or rather the you could say the Uber drivers or the Zomato guys, delivery guys, for them to go and participate in this program where they could recharge for others and earn some commission on the whole thing, right? So we did that, and the other thing that we did, so these are some of the programs that we launched from a recharge standpoint, because that was one thing. Then we saw that the fact was that there were a lot of inquiries from white collar job workers like us in terms of broadband connections, because everybody was now working home and you needed a stable connection to all of those calls. And they were just not regular calls, they were video calls, right? So you needed a stable bandwidth to be able to do this, and a lot more data, which is what broadband was able to provide. So actually, especially in the TN market, we saw huge increase in terms of demand which came in. And obviously, I think the issues we faced were largely on ground in terms of getting Airtel considered as an essential service, so that people could move around freely to be able to do this. But there were a lot of people who wanted the service activated within a day or so. But due to on-ground challenges, the services would take far longer to get activated because of the on-ground challenges. And many people wouldn't want to wait, and they would go maybe to other players and stuff like that. But that was something. So we saw a huge increase in broadband connections. Not only the increase, but people who already had existing broadband connections also taking a lot of top-up data plans, because they might have been on a smaller data plan, and suddenly the need for data just went up, so they would go and so that was the broadband piece. On the mobility piece, which is we did see people increasing breaching their daily data limits, because the prepaid plans have daily data limits of 1 GB, 2 GB, depending on the plan they are. So in the past, when most people wouldn't breach their daily limit, you saw a lot of that daily limit getting breached. And if a person found that they were regularly breaching the daily limit, then they went ahead and actually either bought a top up, or they went into a higher plan which would give them more data, for them to use this. So yes, so we did see, but at the same time, there were, as you know, that Airtel had announced the fact that for the extremely underprivileged, for nearly 80 million consumers, we're going to extend validity without them having to recharge, because this was the time that everybody needed to be in touch. Yeah. And that's something which we did for quite some time, extended validity for the ones who were not able to afford. And they were largely the 2G feature phone guys. And then we also did a lot of, so we saw from a business standpoint, I'm seeing that there was a lot of, I felt that suddenly people appreciated the fact that this connectivity during these times became so important that appreciated the amount of effort that all of these people, all our engineers who were on ground were going through, because our network engineers were on ground working through the day to ensure that the network stayed and the networks were working so that we could be connected. And we did a lot of these kind of videos from with network engineers where they went ahead and told people, you stay at home, we're ensuring that you'll be remain connected. So I think while it was business, but I think there was a lot of positivity also around this whole piece, which Airtel was able to build over, given just the fact that we were in the business of connecting people.
That's interesting. In fact, I would want to kind of give a huge kudos to the entire telecom industry because thanks to the sheer fact that the bandwidths have been maintained and we have been kind of connected because, right from 23rd of March, I know for a fact that I've been purely on video calls almost 8 to 10 hours a day. And I haven't thankfully seen any disruption so far. Okay. So, we all talk about and keep hearing about the U shape, V shape, or the W shape path to recovery. This question is open for all the panelists. And, so in your individual perspective, what kind of recovery pattern do you see for your businesses, for your clients' businesses? And what would be an estimate on being back on track? So I know Sharath had given an indication with regards to probably another 3 to 4 months. So Sharath, why don't you kind of give us a perspective on this, and then we'll move to the other panelists with the same question.
So I would like to take a data analysis of what was the trend before April across 4 states across South India. Sorry, 5 states now, Telangana and AP together. So the trend was the entire industry of cement. I'll take cement as an example. Is a major consumption of building material. It is around 60 to 65 million tons every month was the production or the dispatch of the industry as such. So out of that, now the overall sale has dropped down close to 25%, which is impacting close to it has come down to 48 million tons per month. So, but still, there is a huge scope for this industry to boom only after Diwali or after October. Now the monsoons has been badly hitting in Karnataka and Kerala, so there will be a slightly dip, and the laborers have also started. Coming from. Most of the laborers are from down south. Northeast and those people who have now started coming back to their work. Okay, so I have seen companies have invested a lot of money to bring back the laborers through they have airlifted actually. Okay, so through flights they are boarding the laborers for the job now. So even yesterday, I landed in Coimbatore from Chennai. I could see a group of laborers from Assam who traveled along with us. So the nobody's waiting for it's enough. We have waited. Enough. We have waited. Now everybody wants to move forward. Okay, so the workforce have entered to the respective construction field, and I hope the trend is moving up. So earlier it was like everybody were scared to come back to their workplace. Now that fear has moved away, and we started to adjust with this COVID situation. We know how to manage ourselves now. So that kind of awareness has been also given by the government to take care of one own's health. So seeing the near future, I think we will bounce back to the earlier situations where all the government projects are all impending. Now they are opening up. The funds have been coming from central government to respective state governments. So a lot of activities will start post November or in the mid of November.
Balaji?
Yeah. In our business, actually, mattress is not a product where there's a major seasonality to it. Of course, to some extent, there is, for example, Onam is huge in Kerala. Then you have Ganesha, which is tomorrow. Then you've got Dashara, Diwali, Christmas. So to some extent, there is some spike that you could see in sales. But otherwise, there is no such, seasonality as such. Because if you look at the mattress, it is something that is always bought because there is a trigger that is causing this purchase. For example, you could have a wedding in a family, or you could be moving into a new home, or you could have backache and go to the doctor, and doctor would ask you which mattress do you sleep on. That is when it occurs to us to even lift the bed sheet and check the condition of our mattress. Otherwise, mattress is an extremely low involvement product, which most of the consumers don't pay any attention to because it is something that is not even there in the radar. Compared to, say, a mobile phone, which I think we would be okay to change every year and pay whatever 30, 40, 50,000 and still be okay with it because we feel it plays a very important role in our lives. But when it comes to a mattress, which is something that you spend one third of your life on, that's not something people pay attention to. So from that point of view, if you look at the recovery path, I think it would be more like a W because we have, of course, 10 months in a year is when weddings happen. People go to purchase new homes, or even if you look at backaches, of course, that's relevant for the entire year. So from that point of view, there are 2 months. For example, we just had this RD or Ashad, where people don't, participate in any auspicious events. So to that extent, there will be a fall. But otherwise, we feel it will just be an up and down for some time. And in my estimate, I would think things should settle down somewhat by, say, December. So that's my estimation as of now.
Murli? Murli, you're on mute. You need to unmute.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Okay. So currently, the way the situation is in India, we actually started our lockdown quite early, right? So going by the which has actually arrested the peak. The way we are looking at it currently, it's going more in a U shape. But yeah, there are few global reports which current talking about saying India will be a market where it can reach its peak in November post festive because of people meeting together and all this stuff. So that's, even though still that's a question currently with the way things are going, we see it will be a U shape, and maybe another 7-8 months things should become much better. And when we speak to our clients also, yeah, it's more reflective of the fact currently they are 60-70% of the sales and the way they are their expectations. So I think things should move towards another 7-8 months. I think things should settle down.
Nadu?
There are two parts to it. First part is, of course, on the category the client is operating and what has been the impact on sales. Like PC of, as I mentioned earlier, FMCG and health and all that, they have already started recovering. In fact, I just looked at some data for TN, and I was surprised that if you compare Jan, July category spend of the top 10 categories versus last year, the drop was only 15%. Which I think it shows a much faster recovery, at least in TN. So yeah, one is function of category. The second one is actually, I would say that's a function of the brand task at hand. Like, for example, if like there are brands like within our agency, we have brands like Kent and Propena who have invested a lot frugally during the COVID season. Now, of course, it was a golden period for any advertiser to build brands. Like there was low ad clutter, there was high audience attention, CPRPs were low, cost of media was low. I think it was a completely golden period. So frugal investment did really pay a lot of returns. So I think brands who are looking at brand building would anyway invest on the brand rather than looking for a short-term sales. So these are two perspectives I see, one the category and one the brand task. And of course, to go with it's also the kind of, if you look at the latest trends, at least in the last 2-3 weeks of the market data, we see FCT getting filled up, on at least on TV. So it is a kind of recovery, whether it's V-shaped, W-shaped or U-shaped is completely a function of the operating category and the impact COVID has had on the business.
How about you, Danisa, from your perspective?
So from our perspective, we never really saw too much of a dip during the last few months, to be very honest. It was only in our indulgent range, including cakes and so where we were able to see maybe like a 20% dip and so on. But as far as recovery is concerned, for us, for things to actually go back to normal, the hospitality industry needs to pick up. People should be more and more willing to go to retail outlets. I feel all of that is when the impulse purchases happen, then the extra money is put into the grocery basket. So, considering that, I would say that it's largely dependent on how confident people feel with the whole situation. And when I look at it from a South India perspective, I feel like how each state itself is functioning is very different. How Kerala is functioning is very different from how Tamil Nadu is currently functioning. So I'm not really able to say what kind of a curve we're gonna have. But right now we have Onam coming up in less than in a couple of days, and that's one of the major events for us because a lot of people go in and they usually have that elaborate meal and celebration and gifting and so on that usually happens from year to year. It will be very interesting for us to see what happens as Onam, because that would also give us a large indication towards the Christmas season, which is a huge deal for us as a company.
Sure. Archana?
So I'm saying similar to what Dennis has said, that our business also has been less impacted by this whole COVID piece. And if you've seen our quarter results and all, the fact that our ARPUs are going up. So overall, we're seeing I think for us, looking at from a business standpoint, again, I'm not looking at the UV, whatever curves and stuff like that. I think we're going to be seeing growth. That's what's our outlook, that we will be emerging much stronger out of this. That's what I would like to know, because curves and all, I mean, it's just a alphabet in my mind.
So let's kind of see a hockey stick growth for you in that case.
Well, fingers crossed.
Okay, Dennis, I just wanted to check, since we have been talking about these 5 southern states, a simple question to you is, what has advantage Tamil Nadu versus the other regional states for elite foods?
So, Ellie, for us, so we've been predominantly a Kerala brand probably till 15 years back when we started venturing into the other states. And one thing that I've seen with Tamil Nadu is that once people actually try our product and are able to see the difference that's there, then they are actually very much stuck to the brand. So I think I mentioned it some time back also. I think in a similar event, I was talking about how, when I was in one of my market visits, which I do pretty often, I was actually pretty annoyed with my sales agent, to be very honest, and he was going to have it for the day because I was going from shop to shop and I was not happy with the visibility and the kind of shelf space that we had. But this small girl was actually walking past the cake aisle, and I was like, okay, let me see what she's up to. And then her dad picks up like the Britannia chocolate bar cake, and we were like, okay, fine. I was like, I can't really do much. I was like, contemplating whether I should tell her to try Elite or not. And at that moment, so right after Britannia aisle, like the Elite aisle came, and then the kid goes, no, I don't want Britannia, I want Elite. Because I think it's once the people there get the taste of the product, I think they really appreciate it and they value that a lot. So I see Tamil Nadu to have a great brand loyalty in comparison to the other states, for sure.
Okay. For all of us in Bombay, we haven't tasted the cake, and with the lockdown, I'm sure we can't reach Chennai. So please, Shankar, I'll forward you my address. I need some Elite cakes here.
No, yeah, forward it to me. We actually do sell in Bombay, but very little.
Yeah.
So do send me your address. I'll send you a hamper across for sure.
That's right. Sharath, what about you? What's advantage Tamil Nadu for you?
Tamil Nadu was the first state to open up when we compare to rest of the southern states. And here I have been traveling since last 20 days, continuous traveling. I moved to AP. I visited Nellore markets, and down now I'm into down south now, and now I'm into west of Tamil Nadu, traveling for the last 4-5 days. I see a lot of people are are very positive, and a lot of outlets have been opened, and I think Tamil Nadu will be quickly revived, and we will be the fastest growing state across South India. That is my take. And there is no big panic situations and all. Everybody knows how to live with this situations, and I hope Tamil Nadu will be the first state to come out of all these things when compared to rest of southern region.
Balaji, how about you? What's advantage Tamil Nadu for repose mattresses?
Well, in our business, I think the thing is very relevant to the entire of this Tamil Nadu, because we are into spring mattresses, which is the latest when it comes to mattresses, and you had foam and coir, which were earlier there in terms of the evolution of the product. Now, if you look at Tamil Nadu, it's actually a significant. And one of the reasons I would imagine is people in South and in Tamil Nadu are more progressive and experimentative in nature, and I would like to, check out the latest products available also. So to that extent, Tamil Nadu has worked really well for us. And apart from that, I think it's pretty much, even across the other states. We are right now there in the south and west of India. So we are not a pan-India brand as yet. So that has been our situation so far.
We've all kind of seen Tamil Nadu having its own charm in terms of media, whether it was blockbuster series Chitti, or whether when you look at cinemas, huge cutouts of superheroes kind of flying over the T Nagar junction and everything. So, from your perspective, Naru, what would be your plan of action going forward for TN market for the brands that you kind of take care of for your clients?
Yeah, I think just to go a little bit backwards, maybe I started my career 27 years ago, and across and completely media agency. And if you see from that perspective, I've not heard any client saying, okay, we invested in TN and it didn't work. I mean, it is one market where you invest whatever amount you put, you get the returns, and at least 8 out of 10 cases have seen that that's worked. So that way TV works, and other media is gradually picking up. So moving forward, I think things should be, the investment would continue for TN because returns are there, sales are there, the media ROI is also high in TN as far as whatever brands we have seen. In fact, one interesting trend, as you say, moving forward, so far, I think TN, if you see more from FMCG or more from mass products, it was more GECs and possibly movies which do well. But during this COVID period, we had done a little bit of experimentation on news. So news as a genre has really picked up, and it has given tremendous results. In fact, we are experimenting with 1-2 brands, FMCG brands, with very heavy presence on news with L-bands and other kind of FCT, to see the response, because it's not only reaches to the consumer, but we see it also kind of getting a little bit of trust and confidence in the trade. So that way, TN investment would continue, and I think whatever I highlighted, we didn't see much dip in relatively a lesser dip in ad volumes compared to the rest of the states and all India. So my suggestion, or the way we see it at the agency, is being optimistic on TN. Any investment, I think, as I would also agree with Balaji and Shah, like there is not much impact, or TN is one market where we see early recovery. So we would really also recommend our clients to continue placing the investment in TN.
Murli, how about you?
So more or less, I agree with what Nadu is saying. There are few interesting. So TV have been one of the lead medium in TN, and continuously will be. And today, if you have to get the maximum reach and put the money on TV, and you get it. But in the last 3-4 months, yes, there have been a good synergy that's happening between TV and OTT and digital. Also to an extent, which is also seen in terms of the data consumption being going up in TN in the last 2-3 months, right? If the trend continues, then obviously there is going to be some kind of a good synergy that's going to happen. And obviously, the way we are actually looking at it, to extend, go back to basics and start looking at the best 100% measurable media is something which is going to get the maximum amount of money. So that's how the life is going to be. One is obviously connecting the consumer, and another thing is looking at how measurable it is and how we can ensure the right ROI is going to them, right? So I feel TV digital will play a very important role, and other mediums we need to really set the right KPIs and take.
So Murli, with most of the movies now coming up on the OTT platform, do we see a lot of viewers actually flinging coins on their TV screens when a new movie is coming up and the peppy number is being kind of played?
See, it's quite interesting actually. Especially if it go to the way TN is currently. Okay, there are two ways I will look at it: at the Hindi market level and at the TN. Right? Today, in OTT, the content for a Hindi market is pretty good. It's pretty good, self-sufficient. People have a lot of options to look at, whether you take a Netflix or Amazon or any other OTT platforms today. The bigger challenge in TN currently is, I think the opportunities are much more lesser at this point of time, but I think it's building over a period of time. But the other way to look at it on TN, what is happening is, one is the social consumption is going very high, and I think things like the YouTubers, more where the individuals become their own heroes, where they are having their own channels. The number of chefs that has come in the last few months. One of the Google studies said it's almost a 4x in terms of the number of chefs in YouTube currently. So these are something, those might be the shift. So I will not just look at it as OTT there or cinema, but the consumption will be slightly different from any other.
Archana, I would want to check with you what changed in your media mix for TN?
I think it was not so much the mediums which changed. I think obviously we stopped advertising on outdoor, but TV and digital were the mainstream mediums during this period, and they're going to continue for some time. I don't see that changing too much. But I think the mix within each of these mediums, or what you would choose earlier and what you choose now and going forward, was what we saw as in a lot of change. So actually, just when the lockdown got announced, what we had done was we had quickly checked. We figured there was a market where there had been no original content, which was telecast for over a month, and we went and checked in that market what happened in terms of viewership trends. So we found, and at that time we figured that it was obviously news, which is going to be the beginner, movies was going to be the beginner, and kids, because we realized that was intuitive that it was summer holidays and things like that. So kids, any genre anyway goes up. And this was even before BARC started giving out information, giving out information when they did their weekly reports. So we had actually already got this information, and we said, and that's what we were proposing as we went along, that while we would continue advertising on GC because there would people, but there would be a huge drop in terms of viewership. But what would gain, and we started doing a lot more news advertising, which we wouldn't have done earlier. We would take maybe one or two, maybe regional channels. So in markets like TN and all, we would rarely maybe take one-off campaigns. We might have taken news, but now for every campaign, news and movies were cornerstones of all our advertising. The other thing that we did a lot more was digital. Suddenly, as people mentioned that OTT suddenly started. We started exploring other OTT specific, or rather news, even digital news websites, which were there, which were both either video and or static communication. When I say static, I mean display communication. We actually started exploring a lot more, not only those national news kind of things like maybe the Hindi or the English news, but also a little bit of the regional news, which was actually catering to the 4 South states, and evaluating where can we advertise, and we started experimenting with. So I think the experiments we did was more on the digital front, where we actually opened up or experimented with platforms which we had done in the past, which was largely news platforms, both for national and for the regional, for different segments. I think that was big. But I think what I found very, so I was just looking at some data in terms of OTT for South, specifically for South, and the OTT which caters only for the 4 southern states or for South. I have seen actually an inverted V curve. So we saw that the MAUs have gone up, during the peak COVID period, but now they're on the downward trend. I think that is going to remain a challenge as to how media in TN is going to continue to drive value and try to at least maintain those numbers that they saw. Because now content, now again, we're going to a scenario where consumers now have choice, right? I have original content coming back, so now I can go back to watching my favorite serials on the GC channels. Obviously, movies are just a repeat because there are no new movies coming in, at least on the movie channels. But there is repeat viewing of really the big titles, irrespective of how many ever times you air it, you'll get ratings on those. So that's always going to remain. And news, there's always some news happening. If this year has, in that sense, been a year of news because every week something new happens. So I don't think that's going to die because news is obviously based on what is a topical event and how do you drive viewership based on that topical event. And that's this year has given ample opportunities to news. But I think it's also how the OTT going to maintain, and especially down south, how is the OTT going to maintain their viewerships and ensure there's consistent viewership for advertisers to start experimenting on those platforms? I think that is a challenge in my
We have been actually listening to a lot of shifts in our media mix in terms of having a bouquet of news channels being introduced to our buying baskets, or the shift towards digital. So, again, a common question to each of you. I'll probably start with Danisa. In terms of digital, could you share one disruptive example or something differentiated that you have done on digital during this period? That's part A of the question. And the part B is, will this revised mix, whether it's shifting monies to digital or news, be the new normal? Danisa?
Yeah. So for us, we've, largely, if you look at us 3 to 5 years back, we were not too much in the TV advertisement space. We were more focused on creating a brand with, outdoor advertisements and in-store advertisements, because that's where the actual purchase happened for us. But let's say from 2017, 18 onwards, we've been kind of focusing more towards news channels, especially in the Kerala market. So more than Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, we used to do more of TV advertisements in Kerala. And so that's something that we've continued forward, making sure that news is there. But one thing that we've kind of reduced this year is, of course, the in-store activities or the buy one get one free activities or gifts. All of those type of promotional activities actually had to be reduced because the effectiveness of it was very low, with consumers not going into the stores. So all of that got allocated towards digital because everyone's screen time on average must have skyrocketed during the period of lockdown, be it for monitoring news or be it for work. Everyone was attached to one or the other device. So digitally, we are doing a lot of campaigns with social media influencers. So right now for our Onam, this is something different that we are doing because we've usually not done that, is working with other cooking shows and recipe shows and so on to create content together. So it's something that's done in the industry quite often, but we never really bothered venturing into it because we still felt that the in-store advertisements were more effective for us at that point of time. But with the current change in the landscape, we are focusing on that. So we have a huge campaign coming in with I think maybe 20 videos being created and promoted, and hopefully try and kind of connect with the consumers more. What else did you want me to answer to that question? Sorry, you asked me.
That's right. The second one was, will this revised mix be the new normal in terms of your media planning approach going forward?
So up until people are not going physically into stores, I would say that this is the kind of mix we would be looking at, wherein we are going to focus more into digital and so on. And I do see that, continuously Elite is going to focus more in digital, and our spends would probably be in an upward trend. but it might not be the similar growth as we did in the last few months. I think it would become a little more plateau once we're able to explore and take advantage of other mediums of advertisement and so on.
How about you, Murli?
Okay, new normal is currently quite a tough question to answer. But having said that, one thing that is very clearly reflecting now is somewhere going back to basics is becoming very important. Where, as I said before, anything that is going to be 100% measurable and having like kind of KPI is going to be the only thing that is going to help or going to work. And that is the expectation today. That is more or less almost all the clients have been asking for. So, as I said, the media, whichever has a strong measurability, is going to get or maximize their spends, and the rest of the media is going to be more continue to work as a frequency builder. And obviously, digital and TV will take the maximum pie. TV is still a high reach medium in TN, so TV is continue to dominate the market, right? If the opportunity of the content improves in OTT, I strongly feel I think there's a big opportunity to have a good synergy between these two. To extent, we also feel there are some interesting opportunity that came on print during this time actually, where print started enabling people to reach the consumers. Either they were helping us as a distribution channel, or they were helping in terms of reaching the customers in multiple other. Right? I think more or less that integrated approach will also be another opportunity which will come in a big way over a period of time, is what I see. So therefore, I think that's how the mix will be moved.
Narayan, how about you?
Yeah, just to add on to what Murli said, I think integrated approach definitely is key. In addition, there'll be a lot of test and learn approaches. Like, for example, I remember being preview to FMCG case just 2-3 years ago, where in TN we tested digital giving incremental reach to the TV plan. And that really had worked both in terms of recall and both in terms of offtake. So I think test and learn is something which I think is a must, especially when you have a differential media mix. The second way to look at it may be more of disruption or maybe how you leverage digital. I'll give you an example. I mean, now we handle a leading cooler brand in India. And during the COVID period, I mean, the consumer felt the need for it, but because the shops are all closed, there was no way the consumer can reach out to the brand and the sales could happen. So what we did is we did a kind of a conversion lead gen campaign using digital, and we actually advertised saying that if you need a caller, you call this number and a dealer will reach out to you. So it was completely a performance lead gen campaign. And I will be surprised. And of course, what we could do is we could also kind of do a kind of pin code targeting so that we could just go only on the green zones and avoid the red zones. And I was pretty surprised and that the cost per lead, which we got, much more lower than the cost per click. And this was very, I mean, this result was even profound in TN because it really worked. So I think it's all the test and learn. Though there was no choice, we had to use a different medium and use it for a different purpose. And I think it really worked. So that's the second aspect of how you use digital. And third is definitely content. And talking of content and OTT, I mean, if you see I think that was, if I remember, it was 10th edition Bach Nielsen report, where there was a movie called Penguin, which was a Tamil movie, and it was aired on Amazon Prime. And that movie had got the #3 ranking all India. It was next to Amitabh's and Ayushmann Khurrana's star Gulabo. That means that somewhere I think a Tamil content was accepted nationally and was #3 in terms of reaching unique audiences. What a surprise. So it is like, I think the content is definitely picking up, OTT is picking up. So the only way to realize which is better or where to invest is do a lot of test and learn approaches.
Sure. Balaji and Sharad, the next question is for both of you. Since both of you are having offerings that need to be touched and felt before the purchase, how are you connecting with your consumers and how have you addressed the touch and feel need in this time?
I think
Balaji, you can start, Balaji. Now.
For me?
Yeah, yes, please. Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, yes, to a great extent, our product needs to be touched and felt and experienced because it's all about comfort. And comfort, as you know, is a very subjective thing. So we always encourage people to come to the showroom and check out the product. So what we did was to start with in the offline space, we had a Zoom call with most of the dealers and told them the importance to encourage people to come and adopt all the safety measures that are required for people to come and experience the product, which was done. And lots of people came. Actually, if you look at it, lots of weddings actually happened during this period, even though the crowd was limited. So I think parents, what they did was the money that was allocated for the big event, they had spent it more on the kind of products, better products. So our high-end mattresses also took off very well actually. The other point is we have our executives also who carry a small miniature kind of a thing, which is a 2x2 size, 2 by 2 feet size. So when people call up inquiring for a mattress, we send these executives home. Obviously, these people are completely geared with masks and sanitizers and all that, and they go there and give a touch feel experience of the product. Now that is as far as the offline was concerned. As far as the online is concerned, we also started putting in a lot more muscle into the e-commerce space. So we have launched this bed in a box concept where mattress can be compressed and put into a box, and the customer just needs to unbox it, uncompress it, and it becomes a regular mattress. So we always believed in ideas and innovations. In fact, our positioning is wake up to fresh ideas because there's a very intrinsic connection between sleep and ideas, the brain. So if you sleep well, you'll obviously be able to think of better ideas in whatever business you are into. So keeping that in mind, we have always come up with newer products. For example, we have launched India's first locker mattress, where there's a small safe that is kept inside a mattress. Of course, in a very small size, so you can't store much. Obviously, you can keep a little bit of cash and jewels and keep it. And the other interesting launch that we've done was memory foam music pillow. Now there are two tiny speakers inside this pillow, and there's a wire that comes out which you can hook to your smartphone and listen to whatever content you want even while sleeping, because it's a very good replacement to your earphone. And not just that, we've also done some CSR kind of activity. We've donated about 50 mattresses to a COVID care initiative that happened in Coimbatore, which was run by the district of Coimbatore. So this way we've tried to give this touch feel experience and also used online effectively to showcase our products.
Sharad?
Yes, to answer the touch, I'll come a little later. So our product is not like any of the other panelists' product. People would like to touch and feel. Steel is a steel finally. Okay, so we don't have any glamorous packaging around it. So, but we did a lot of innovations. We tried out, we experimented a lot of. The entire media mix changed. We thought of how to engage our dealers during this pandemic situation. So we have close to 1,000 plus dealers across South India. We took one route of engagement through radio. We did a campaign, and it's still on through Ala FM. We did a engagement activity of touching close to 100 dealers across Tamil Nadu. And predominantly, FM plays a very the recall for the any brands, especially retails, anything you take. FM plays a very vital role to engage your audience. Unlike TV, you don't have that that option of limiting to a region. So you can do a customized plan if through radio, the radio as a medium. So we thought we should engage our dealers. We were not also supposed to travel during April, May. So we thought we should somewhere we should find a way how to reach them and say that the brand is always with you. So we ran internal communication through our internal IT department. We engaged all 500 dealers across South India. We gave a training program of how to handle this pandemic situations, and we also gave a kit for our dealers. Okay, we gave a sanitizer stand and we gave a posters communicating this store is COVID-free store. So these kind of innovations we did during this time, and we got a very good response also. Not only to our dealers, we also tapped the competition dealers, and we also gave this as a freebie to them. So this one activity, I think first of, I mean, in the secondary steel category, we were the first to have an engagement activity through Zoom, engaging all these dealers. We trained them how to maintain the shop and how to make the walk-ins feel more safe and secure. So the more, as you rightly we were discussing on touch and feel, people used to you want to see what steel they are going to consume for their construction. So how to make them, and I mean how to have a fear-free what you call path to enter the outlet. And we did a lot of innovations and a lot of in-shop branding. We invested now to all the shops which we were in connect through Zoom. Then there's one part internally we did, and we took a route to engage these. We selected a panel of, I mean, close to 100 dealers we thought we should engage, and out of which 50 dealers were our existing dealers and 50 dealers were the new dealers. So we thought to engage them through an Hello FM channel, where Hello FM radio guys, and we gave the full freedom of creativity to them. Okay, we never used please. We were very firm and not using our brand name there always. So this program has been sponsored by ARS, but the entire content, we have some 100 stories of each dealers, each entrepreneurs. Okay, how they become successful. We have collected close to 100 inspirational stories of their successes. So this motivated the other dealers who were listening Hello FM, and we also took video bites through Zoom call. We did the one audio interviews as well as one video interviews. Those video interviews were being posted across all social medias, and we also tagged all the dealers whoever are using the through their FB and Insta. So we did a lot of engagement activity during this time, and touchwood, we got close to 25 new dealers on board now, especially from ROTN region. So that itself, we tested. This is a time for testing. People used to always say there is no proper tracking system for any FM radio station, especially in Tamil Nadu, where I think in Karnataka we have tracking through IRS, and one of few questions is related to radio. So we thought we should have if our planning is well laid, definitely we can. Radio is a very good medium, which of course TV is also we'll be investing after during the festive season also. But radio has really given us a very good impact in terms of business generation also. End of the day, we invest something, and out of which we got new customers. By engaging them, it's a very good experience I would like to share on in this forum. And apart from that, yes, we launched a virtual laboratory where any end user or people who want to construct a home can access through our website and get connected to our technical team, and they can see how the product is being manufactured and what all the testing mechanisms to ensure the quality of the product is being virtually. We have done it, and we are planning to launch certain vehicles. It's called mobile van services, where this van will go to the sites. It is a B2C approach. Okay, so this van will be engaged with a technical guy who will be definitely a civil engineer or diploma civil engineer, who will go and explain about this product and services to the direct end users. So these are the innovations which we had some time in the first quarter to think, and we have started working on it.
Sure.
So that's
one thing I missed to add. Yeah, we keeping the innovation in mind, we had come up with this sanitized fabric for each of the mattresses. So each and every mattress that left our factory was pre-treated with this process and which had this sanitization in it. And this was tested and certified by SITRA, SITRA, which is South India Textile Research Association, which is from the Ministry of Textiles, Government of India. So this is again another innovation, and we have a sticker on each of the products saying that this fabric is sanitized. So go ahead without any worries, kind of thing. Yeah.
Sure. So again, Archana and Ganesha, in the current scheme of things, do you see any medium getting impacted and losing out during this period? And in your assessment or your view, which medium is going to benefit the most and why? So maybe Archana, we can start with you, and then Ganesha can take the same question.
Yash, what you're asking is what is the medium that is going to get the most effective going forward, right?
No,
Continue to be effective.
Which medium do you see losing out currently, and which medium will benefit most?
Okay, so I think, I think we've already established that TV and digital are going to grow and they're going to continue getting the big advertising bucks. I think given the other three mediums which you look at largely, which is, out of home and cinema, I think the one which was going to gain and could potentially gain would be print, because newspapers is a habit and that's something which is going to continue. And what I believe is that in the Chennai market, in the TN market, the distribution was not as affected as it was in some of the other markets where, like in Mumbai, the print was down by 70%. There was no distribution of newspapers. But that was not the case in TN as much. So I think print is something which is going to continue to gain traction and will come back. And we've already seen that happening with a lot of advertising coming back on that medium. I think the one which could potentially be a big loser going forward could be cinema, given that, there are not too many big releases happening. That's number one. And second is this whole fear of contracting or being in close spaces with other people. And I think that is going to take some time for it to change, for the mindset to change. And when new releases, and I think and TN is known to be a cinema market, so people want movies to come out. Now, will that, if a new big movie, a big star coming in a movie, will that force people to go out to watch it in a theater? I don't know actually. So I think given that there is this question mark on that part, I think that could be potentially the medium which could lose out for the next few months.
Okay. So I think in my opinion, personally, I think more than the Tamil Nadu market, if I look at Kerala market, I can see that print has seen a significant drop. Maybe, people are a little apprehensive about touching the paper or, not knowing how many hands actually pass through and so on. But I think that is very temporary. So I think, in the next, let's say 6 to 7 months, we're hoping that, the vaccine would be in place and things would go back to normal. And I think print will bounce back by then. But yeah, the growth that you can see. So I feel like, similar when we look back at demonetization, we saw a huge jump in digitalization that happened during that time. I feel like India skipped a few years. Like, if you look at Paytm and the number of mobile wallets and the number of e-transactions that was put in place because of that, I feel like coronavirus has kind of given a second jump to that as far as digitalization is concerned, because people want to be lesser and lesser focused on having money transactions and so on. So I think digitalization has a huge way forward. I think India has not even tapped maybe 5 or 10% of the potential as of now. I think there's way more for that. So I think that's all I have to say. I think digitalization and TV has huge scope, and let's see how it all unfolds after this, because to be very honest, in January I don't think any of us would have even remotely seen this to be our situation. So let's have our fingers crossed and hope for the best.
Sure. And technically, this is my penultimate question, if I would put it. It's a bit longish, but it's all interrelated. So I would just kind of request you to bear with me for the bit of a long format question. So the question basically is, would you be looking at big ticket activities like an IPL or Big Boss for your brands? What would be the key ask to the channels? And technically, what would be the advice that you would want to give to the media owners and sellers for the rest of this fiscal year? We will start with Balaji.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, I said it's a bit of a long question. Technically, would you be looking at high ticket associations, properties like a Big Boss, IPL, or similar properties? What would be your key ask to the channel? And what would be an advice that you would want to leave behind for the media owners or the media sellers for the rest of the fiscal year?
Well, we have been taking part in Big Boss in Tamil in the first 2 seasons, and even in Malayalam, where the second season abruptly had to be called off because of the outbreak of corona. Moving forward, I would rethink about putting so much of investment into one kind of program, because like Ganesh said, digital is going to be huge. So to that extent, we would park a little bit of investment in digital also, because we've also now slowly started investing a lot in this e-commerce space, where bed in a box concept is also picking up. So from that point of view, we will be spending a lot more in digital. But having said that, we can't replace mass media, because the kind of reach it has, I don't think any other media like digital can take care of it. So from that point of view, I would think it would be a good mix of digital and the kind of programs that you're talking about, like Big Boss and IPL. The kind of advice that we would like to give to them is to reduce the rates. That's all.
Yeah. Constant advice, no?
I would request you to answer this question.
Me or okay? So for us, we've kind of invested in IPL a little bit and so on a few years back, and considering we're a regional brand, the kind of impact we expected it to have, we were not really be able to see it. Like the return for every penny spent is much lower if you are a regional brand versus a national brand. But that said, maybe in another 1 or 2 years we would probably look at one of these large events. But this year, I'm personally not very fond of taking that big of a risk, because I think sometime back in the Malayalam media channel, we were actually going to be one of the lead sponsors for one of the singing or dancing, one of the talent shows. And in the very end moment, it got cancelled, or something or the other keeps happening. And I feel like, I just don't feel the confidence in the media to have such a big sponsorship deal going on right now. But maybe in a year or so, I would say, once things settle down a bit.
Naru? Sorry, Danisa.
Yeah.
Advice to media sellers and owners for the rest of the fiscal.
Pardon, sorry, I couldn't hear you. Your voice was just not clear.
What would be your advice to the media sellers and owners for the rest of the fiscal year?
Be kind and give us good deals so that we can work together.
Naru, how about you?
Yeah, I think okay, there are brands. I think IPL, specifically IPL and Big Boss, they are brands who have used them in the past, and most of them have seen disproportionate returns. So I think if the money is there, if the efficiency is there, if it makes sense, because right now Big Boss also clashes during, I mean, it comes exactly during the IPL time as well. So I think there are a lot of evaluation which needs to be done. Of course, rates, I mean, is important, and the best deal is what we need to secure for our clients. So initially, I think basis IPLC Alliance is also one of the leading sports marketing agencies, and so far we are seeing jerseys getting signed up for IPL, which is a good sign. In fact, there are not much positions available, which is a very positive sign. And of course, IPL viewership is likely to pick up. It's likely to increase by at least 20 to more than 20%, at least 20 to 30% maybe. So I think the eyeballs are definitely there. Brands who invest during the festive season are likely to be on board, and that's the best medium one could think of. So I think definitely IPL and Big Boss will be considered by brands who generally like to invest on a big property. Smaller brands, I don't feel so. There'll be much of a, like they wouldn't go unless the deals and it's like clearly lead or a deal or integration led kind of approach, or a kind of offer which is comes from the media owner.
What would be your advice to media owners and sellers?
Okay, whether it's COVID, and I think Jayesh, you know this better, like whether it is COVID or non-COVID, I think a media agency always endeavors to get the best rate for the clients and deliver the best value, irrespective of the situation. So that endeavor continues, and the COVID doesn't impact that much. So, but one suggestion is that since I highlighted a lot of retail driven brands or dependent brands who have taken a beating due to this COVID scenario, we would request, or if you we would appeal to the media owners if they could give a special incentive or a special deals to these brands to prompt them spend back and look at them as a partner, look at them from a business partner, saying that we are with you to help you grow your business. Maybe we give you a less rate now, and maybe next year you support us more. So I think that's the kind of partnership approach we envisage from a media owner's side. More from a long term, not exactly looking at short term or short term sales, but looking at and helping them being their trusted partner. I mean, be their partner with them.
Sharad, how about you?
Already we have taken, yes, sir. I hope you can hear. Already we have taken a different route this year to invest more on engagement and engagement activity with the dealer fraternity, and as well as through FM. FM is the one medium which we tested, and obviously we'll be continuing with news channels where our TG is well defined. News channels will be our next investment we are planning to do. So as far as, I mean, big programs like Big Boss, and I think at this point of time, not only any regional player, first, I mean, we'll be hesitating to invest such a huge amount. First, for us to come back to our original situation, it will take us for next 6 months. So maybe if they, as Narayan said, it should be a win-win situation for both the client as well as the media, the advertisers, to join hands together, give a smart solutions for upcoming regional brands who are competing with national players. We are also a very huge retail brand, but we have a very tough fight with the national brands. Okay. So considering all these factors, I think the media owners should rethink, revisit, and think of long-term objective. This year, nothing is happening in India. End of the day, we are unable to even launch it in India. So that itself, we have a disconnect. Okay, so seeing our Talaiva CSK Dhoni in Chennai Chepak, that feel itself is different. Okay, seeing him somewhere playing in in the markets of UAE itself is different. There is the connect itself is, we have a disconnect. So considering all these factors, I feel if we may not invest, but I advise the media, sellers to consider retail brands who are consistently striving and trying to move up in ladder. We also contribute a lot of what you call for the national development. Okay, so we are also are the contributors. You shouldn't focus only on the top 10 media spenders across India, and you sell your stuff for next 2 years, sign a big contract, and end of the day we won't you don't even consider regional brand first of all. So that openness should be there. And you please remember, India will be depending more on regional brands, especially brands which are catering into the rural part of India, where the more development will be happening only in suburban and rural territories of any states. So considering those factors, I feel we would also like to associate in IPLs and big bosses, but the current scenario is putting an obstacle for us to think of that at this point of time.
Yeah. Okay, so I would like to answer this in three parts. One is IPL, which is a universal story for us. One is going to be the same reality show, so-called, at a Hindi speaking and one on South, right? IPL per se, the way we are also expecting it to have some kind of positive viewership because it's a sporting event which is coming after almost 7-8 months. And always IPL brings that some kind of viewership positivity also. And obviously the money flow to extent in terms of business. So we feel that, yes, that would be a good traction in terms of IPL. When we get into the shows, the bigger shows like Big Boss or a KBC or whatever, if I look at a Hindi market, the associations are basically from a lot of the new age clients, or basically the new e-commerce, or basically the new players who are coming into the right, and very few support that comes from few of the FMCGs or from the existing clients. That is one bit of it. And in terms of ratings, yes, there will be some kind of impact with IPL coming in, and with IPL viewership expected to go up, there will be an impact for sure in these shows. But interestingly, if you look at South as a trend for last few years, reality shows or these bigger shows like Big Boss have always done very well. In fact, Big Boss is something which have helped Vijay to really grow every time whenever Big Boss comes in. They becomes almost a number one, number two channel in the market. So that way, yes. But in terms of support, it's always more a retail defense support. But what I understand as of now is the traction was pretty good. So that's why it is. But yeah, any bigger shows in South, I think, will generally succeed just because of the kind of viewership and the reach that they will get. So I somehow feel that the demand will continue to be there for a program like this.
Sure, Murli, what would be your advice to the media owners and sellers?
Leave away, I'm not, because cost is always taken as part of the negotiation, so I'm not very honestly getting into it. But somewhere I think it's important to figure out multiple solutions. Like what Nadu said is how we can build a partnership with the brands, right? That is something which is very important now. And can we build some kind of integrated solutions which helps us to reach audience in a more effective and efficient way than just talking about a sponsorship or just coming and saying let's integrate this or whatever. So somewhere we need to build some kind of that solution, and I think if that can be built in, whether it's if they have a network or not, if they can join with other networks and figure out some kind of integrated solution, it will really help the advertisers also to reach the audience in a much efficient and effective way. That's what.
Sure. Archana, how about you?
So I said, just going to start again. The fact was that, we've really not been associated with any of these big ticket items for quite some time, for the last few years. Airtel used to be associated at one point of time with a lot of this cricket, a lot of these shows and things like that. In fact, we used to sponsor the Super Singer for the longest time in TN market. But all of that has, over time, we've actually stopped doing that because we realized that was not driving any extra incremental value for us. We did last year Big Boss in Tamil Nadu, and which was the only other one of the big things that we did last year. Going forward for this year, again, I think the way we approach these big ticket items is very different from some of the other people. So I would be evaluating all of these based on what I have, what's my advertising strategy at that point of time, what's my campaign. is it the right audience that is it's required for, and various such factors before I decide whether to take it or not. Okay. So we are evaluating everything. It's not that we never evaluate, we evaluate everything, but we take a call based on these factors to decide whether we want to do an association or not. Now, if I look at, so IPL again, we won't be associating with it. We're evaluating whether we'll do spot buys and things like that. That's something which is in consideration. If we come back to Big Boss, we did last year Big Boss, but I think what we were looking and which is the brief which was given to there are lots of Big Bosses happening across a lot of channels, is that we're not looking at these passive integrations largely. We're looking at how do we drive active integrations. We did a lot of that with when we did KBC in Kerala last year. It did pretty well because we integrated it a lot with the way we want to drive. The active integrations were all about driving business and not just visibility for the brand. I think Airtel as a brand, the visibility is fairly high. It's about now taking it to the next level. And I think in this current scenario, that is a little challenging as to how do you drive this active integrations or active engagements within the shows, right? Which is becoming a challenge. So we are evaluating, but I'm not sure. I don't know whether we do it. Again, as I said, it'll depend closer to date on what I have active at that point of time and whether this makes sense or not. So that comes to the big ticket items, and that's how we've always viewed them. In terms of it's very difficult to go and advise somebody else as to what they should do for their business. I think negotiations and all is always, and everybody's mentioned it, so I'm not really going to get into it. But I think it's about how to drive value, or it has to be a win-win situation, right? So at the end of it, how is it that there is value being driven for the advertiser? At the end of it, all advertisers, brands are interested in sales. How am I going to get incremental business by being on your channel, right? What is that? Now, the other piece which I found a little surprising, a lot of times, digital and TV are sold separately. The only times they decide to come together is when there's a big separation. So if there is, let's give you an example, a Big Boss happening in TN or in Kerala, then they will talk about TV and a digital combined package. I sometimes wonder, is this the time to even start exploring things of combinations, given that OTT is on the rise? Is there some way that media can look at driving these kind of combinations and being innovative about it? I don't know whether there is going to be acceptance in the market, because there will be brands who want to do only TV and who want to do only digital. There'll be some who do a mix of both. It's just a thought. Is there some merit in trying to do these combination deals versus just doing it for big ticket items? Is something which has actually crossed my mind. That's something which they need to evaluate if it makes sense. Because I do understand that each of these businesses, the TV business and the digital businesses, are different verticals headed by different people. So that itself is challenge. There are enough challenges on that. But is there something which can be done where there's more collaboration at their end to drive this together?
Thank you. And this brings me.
I think Jayesh needs to start. Jayesh?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think media owners can't do much about it beyond a point, because beyond a point won't make business sense for them. So I think the whole thing has to start from, BCCI, for example, and the team owners, and then the players. Everybody needs to bring down their fees by a certain percentage, and then probably it might become viable for everyone.
Oh, you're right. In fact, till the entire ecosystem starts looking in that same direction.
Exactly. So
start kind of accepting certain
media owners are somewhere in between, so they can't do much about it.
Right. So this brings me to the last question. I know that we are crystal gazing, and none of us is like a Nostradamus to predict certain dates. But this is like a quick rapid fire question, no long answers out here. But would the 1st of April 2021 be a new beginning? Balaji, yes or no?
April 1st also is April Fool's Day, so I don't know.
Sharat? Sharat?
I think April 1st will, I mean, before April 1st itself, I think January 1st, I hope should be a opening for every one of us.
Murli?
So,
Yes. If you ask me, yes. Want
Yes.
it to be, and yes.
Naru?
Yeah, I think yes, and I think January 1st would be a more positive, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Very optimistic. Archana?
I think yes, because two reasons. One, hopefully by that time the vaccine will be found, and second, financial years of a lot of advertisers start, so lots of new budgets coming in. So yes.
Finally, Danisa?
I think it could go in a positive trend from Jan, but I don't see it being a turning point up until June.
Wow. Thank you very much. And there are quite a few questions that have come in. But before we take the questions, a huge round of applause to each of you. I think it's an afternoon really well spent with good insights coming in and a good set of perspectives coming in for TN as a market. So thank you very much. And okay, there are some questions. I will just kind of browse through them. I think some of them we might have answered. So the question for Naru and Murli, which are the mediums which will do well and which categories will do well? So either of you want to kind of take a shot at it? Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, see, which kind of medium does well is again, it's quite a tough question to answer currently, but yeah, TV and digital is continuing to do its best. Print will start coming back to normalcy, and obviously, what COVID have done is COVID have also given the credibility of news where print has gained a lot, right? And everyone has spoken about it. So I think print will also gain. What I see is the synergy of digital and traditional will start becoming bigger, like radio with digital radio, overage with digital overage. So I think there is these kind of transformations and changes that is going to happen. Is what I feel. Therefore, any changes that happen or shift that happens, or the synergy that gets created, I think all those media will start delivering. That's what
Naru, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think TV, digital, definitely yes. I would also like to add content and a kind of a more of a word of mouth influencers, and I think that kind of a strategy, which means more from a earned media perspective. I think that will start picking up quite in the next 2-3 months at least, and we have seeing an initial trend as well there. So that's one. And I mean, also, yes, we definitely see a resale trend being more resilient now with the festive season coming in. And radio, as Sharath highlighted, maybe for very retail and maybe dealer driven, or I mean, I was happy to see that result of FM there. So I think we will start picking up, but gradually. But it will not be, I mean, whatever indicators we have seen, it will never be to the pre-COVID period, at least for these three medium: outdoor, print, and radio. Digital will pick up. Maybe it might even go up further because people have experimented during this COVID period, and they have got a good response because that's the only choice they have had. So I think TV digital definitely will. TV denim also we do see a drop compared to last year, but digital I think will continue. I mean, it will continue the similar growth and momentum like last year. Content will pick up.
Says post life coming to normalcy, will people still use so much of broadband?
See, how do you I think the question is how do you define normalcy? Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of companies have already did work from home for the next 1 year till 2021 or December. So I don't know how to define normalcy. I think the way I'm looking at it is, I think the broadband demand is obviously surge that we saw during when COVID happened. Those may not be there. Those will obviously drop. They are dropping, but they will. I think what people have experienced it, and I think that is something which will drive demand. So, because the kind of connectivity you get when you're watching TV, when at least when you're casting it, various other things. So it's just for your video call, for your regular, work from home, but it's also for your entertainment purposes. And there are a lot more connected boxes. We have a box called the Extreme Box, which is about where you use the box you can use to watch linear television. and you can use it fast OTT your television. So it's a dual purpose box. So you don't have to buy multiple devices to attach to a television, and you can get all of it in one. Now, obviously, all of this requires either a hotspot or a broadband connection. And obviously, with a broadband connection, the kind of the experience is far superior than what you would get. So I'm saying I don't see that it's going to drop. The demand is always going to be there. It's not going to be the same height of demand that we saw in those last few months, the last 3-4 months.
Interestingly, there's a question for me which says that you spend so much money on cinema. This festive, where's the money going? So I'll answer it in two parts. One, this is an out of syllabus question, and two is, given the way the businesses are functioning currently, there obviously has been a bit of a correction and rationalization to the overall spends. So the year has not been normal so far, and with cinema technically not being functional right now, obviously the money is going in the same avenues, which is primarily digital news channels. Okay, this brings me to the last question, which is common question for Balaji and Danisa. Isn't digital overrated? Will print ever make a comeback? Balaji, maybe we'll start with you and we'll end with Danisa.
Digital, I don't think is overrated. It's just that people, wherever you go, it's all about digital. So to that extent, it's just loud. Print, yeah, definitely print will make a comeback, but it will take a while before we see print coming back to where it was.
Sure. Danisa, how about you?
I think if digital media is used efficiently and effectively, it's not overrated. But if you just upload something on your page and just post it and hope for the best, then probably it might not give the results you hope for. So there's always ways to engage with the people so as to maximize the effort that you put in. And as far as print is concerned, I think just like Mr. Balaji mentioned, and also mentioned before, the trust for people to kind of be welcome to newspapers coming home every day and so on might take time, but it also varies largely from region to region. Like how things are in Gujarat is definitely not how things are in Kerala. Here, newspapers we've started probably last month onwards itself. Whereas I know in Kerala, like my relatives back home are still not having newspapers come home and so on. So I think that also depends from state to state. But let's see. Hopefully, print will be back in action very soon. I think it already is on its way.
Thank you. And I think this kind of brings us to the end of our session. In case if anybody wants to add or suggest anything, happy to kind of take it. And for the audiences who have been here with us so far, thank you very much for being with us. And Shankar, would I request you to please join back? Till Shankar is addressing his technical snag, just wanted to kind of a quick check. Is there anything innovative or interesting that Archana you did on digital for Airtel?
I think we did a lot of experiments, and we put in a lot of experiments and in terms of trying out new things. So a couple of things that we tried out were some amount of advertising on, and especially on the video narrative, the gaming, casual gaming gamers, and the other thing we tried was advertising on news. And when I say news, it's again the video narrative. And what we did was did a lot of learning experiments to what's working, what's not working in terms of driving either narrative.
Any of you partner? Sorry. Any of you partnered or associated with events which were kind of telecast live on Facebook or YouTube? Like I remember I did something with during the Tamil New Year. It was called Stay at Home Sangeetam, which was some 14 artists performing the traditional instruments and everything. So any of you have had experienced something, and what has been your take on that? Shankar, give me a nod whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. if you can hear me.
Yeah. So I'll just kind of, we can hear you. So I'll just kind of complete this question and then on to you. Sorry.
We didn't associate anything which was live during this point. Not that I can recall.
Shankar, on to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jayesh, Balaji, Sharad, Naru, Murli, Archana, and Danisa. You've been really good, great insights. Tamil Nadu Chapter 2, a lot of learning. But I had this doubt, Jay, again, the question which was posted to you was out of question. There was this question on media things, broadcasters, rates, and all that. That always baffles me. We've always been good. Broadcasters across the country have been good. Like how we have gone through the COVID crisis. We continue to go through that. Take a brand like Puthuyugam, we have close to 400 plus employees who go day in and day out to reportings and all that. But the biggest support, the only thing what we expect from you comes in form of ads. Channels like us, it becomes extremely difficult to survive without ads. We've been extremely generous, kind, and we'll continue to be. And so rate reduction is something I think we'll have a different discussion. But I'll just come to one point what Sharat Mohan made. Sharat Mohan made this point saying that retail brands need to get that benefit. Most of the broadcasters today take list of properties to national brands, and finally it comes to retail. There is very little what we get. We also represent a channel called Discovery Tamil. In Discovery Tamil, what happened? We took a conscious call when we told them that we were selling the Rajni show with Bear Grylls. Out of the 7 brands, what was sold, all the 7 were from regional markets. There wasn't a single brand which came on Discovery Tamil which was from the national market. So, being a TN, being a company in it's of paramount importance to us to give maximum weightage to retail. So we have big national advertisers, Jayesh, Archana, Murli, and Naru, and Dennis, of course. So great. I have so keep supporting us on behalf of all broadcasters, print, radio, television. Our life depends on you. So keep us in mind. And thank you again very much. And I will reach out to you all very soon. This event will be packaged and will be put on social platforms. Well, I will send you a link. It will have a combined reach of more than, I guess, about 3.5 million people. So it should be up mostly on Monday or Tuesday. So I will share that link with you. And thank you once again, bottom of my heart, from all of us here at 40. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Shankar,
you,
and
thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone.
every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.